Welcome back, guys. GTS Garage. Today we are going to look at Azure AD Directory groups. So these are very similar to your on-premise Active Directory groups. You're creating basically a container and you are applying permissions to that container. Anything that you put into that container will automatically pick up the rights, the access rights, and the permissions associated to the group. So this is a very simple way of assigning users, bulk users, the same permissions. It also allows you to look at the permissions of the folder and see exactly what permissions have been given to your users. The first off, I think let's go to Active Directory. Again, if you do not see the Active Directory symbol up here, easiest way to access it is through the menu at the top, the search bar at the top. It's not active, there we go, Active Directory, and then you end up with a number of blades down on the left hand side, and these are always called blades, or they're referred to as blades. So we're going to go to the group blades, and you're going to see new group, download groups, refresh columns, and you're going to see a number of groups that I've already created, and you will notice that all my membership types are currently assigned. That's because I have no dynamic groups available at this point in time. So we're going to create a new group, and we're going to look at it as a security group, and you'll also notice there's a Microsoft 365 group. We're going to come to the Microsoft 365 groups later. For this, we are going to concentrate on security groups, and we're going to base our security group on resource groups that we are going to create. So I'm going to create the group in here, and then I'm going to create the group in the CLI to show you how that works, and then we're going to assign permissions after that. So the security group, the name is going to be AZ-104 group. So that's nice and simple for me to remember. We don't need a description in there. It's obvious what that description is going to be. Azure AD roles can be assigned. We're not going to worry too much about that at this point in time. And the membership that we're going to use is assigned. You always do an owner. That owner is going to be me. So let me just put that down. Now member, no members, and in this me I'm going to have Aquaman. Aquaman is going to be in that group, and then I can press create, and then I should see that group. Fantastic. So now let's go to the CLI. We open up the Cloud Shell from the corner. There you go. We wait until it logs into the environment. Again, there is a Bash environment and a PowerShell depending on what you're going to use. We're going to use Bash in this, so we start the CLI environment through AZ. Let me just focus where I should be. There you go. And we are going to use the AZ-AD group create command. So if you ever want to know what the required fields for this are, just do that, which is a -H or a double dash and help. So either way will bring up what the required are. So we know these are required. So that's required. Display name is a requirement, and a mail nickname is a requirement. So we are now going to AZ-AD group create display name. If I can spell, display dash name is RG02 sec group, and then the mail nickname is again going to be RG02 sec group. Okay, we'll just start that group, and as you look through the properties, again you need to be familiar with the properties of the codes and the scripts that are created through this process. Within the exam, they are going to give you these scripts or the output of these deployments, and they're going to remove specific codes or commands, and then they're going to ask you to choose the correct command from a list of commands A, B, C, D, and E. So that is something they're going to do. You're going to see that quite often with your exam, so it is worth getting to grips with what these outputs look like. So if we then go up to the top and we just refresh that group, you can now see I've got an RG1 set group and an RG2 set group. There's resource group 1. So if I look at resource group 1, I can go to the role assignment, And then we're just going to select a role, and we'll say for this it's going to be a reader. So we're going to give this security group the reader access over this resource group. So now if we go to our service principal, we're going to start everything with an RG, and there are our resource groups. So we're going to put my resource group 1, and we're going to allow RG set group to have reader control over it. So that's just going to add that to that group. Perfect. So the one thing we haven't done yet is go back to our groups, and we haven't created a dynamic group. Now, to use dynamic groups, you're going to have a P1 license. That is the minimum required to create a dynamic group. So there are several flavors of Azure Active Directory. So you have a free one. So that's your free. It doesn't come with any additional security benefits, but it does allow you to create groups and go through those processes. The next one is P1. So that gives you a little bit more security and gives you a few more security features. And then you have the P2, which is the top level of Azure Active Directory you can get, and all features are then open to you. But for this feature, which is the dynamic groups, or the ability to create dynamic groups, you need the P1 license. So let's go to groups. Let's go back to our Active Directory, go to our groups blade, and then we are going to create a new group. Now the way we do that, we're going to keep it as a security group. For this we will come to 365 groups later on, but for this we're going to keep it focused on security. So we're going to call the security group name RG set group 03. So there we go. Description we won't worry about, AD we won't worry about. When it comes to assign, we're no longer assigning this. We basically want a dynamic group. So what we do, and I'll show you quickly, easier to probably show you, is we move this to a dynamic user. Owners exactly the same. I'm going to create myself as an owner on this group. There we go. And then we're going to add, instead of adding a member to that group, you're going to add a dynamic query. So what we will do is create a dynamic query. So we're going to choose what object we need to base our dynamic query on. So the first thing, I think, company name's a fairly simple one. So we're going to say the property is a company name. The operator we're going to choose is equals, and the value is going to be my company. So any user with the value my company in the property company name will automatically be put into this group. So let's just come out of there. That's the rule syntax. We're going to save that, and then we are going to create. That's going to go away and create the group. So let's just refresh and show you that group. It should be the only dynamic group there. RG03, there it goes, security, and it is dynamically assigned. So what we are now going to go and do is add a user. So the first thing we're going to do is Active Directory, go into users, and we're going to create a new user. So create a new user, and we're just going to say Joe Blogs with a double G, because I think I've got one of those already. Name Joe Blogs, first name Joe. I'm not quite sure why you have to do this 3 times, but it'll all make sense. Joe Blogs, auto-generate the password, we're not too worried about that. Groups roles, we don't need to worry about that because it's going to be dynamically assigned in the next step. So block sign in, usage location, we don't need to worry about. Now when it comes to job info, we look for company name. Now that's the property name that we've put in. So we are now going to say my company, and we're going to create. Now because he's got that property there, he will be automatically assigned into that group. Let's just refresh, and we come up with Joe Blogs. He's currently a member. Let's see if it shows he has been dynamically assigned membership yet. So if we say groups, he's not a member. Now this can take a while to do. I think it automates it automatically goes through a refresh every 15 minutes. So let's come back to that. Okay, so enough time has gone past now, so that account should now be part of that group. So let's quickly just check. Let's see what groups he's part of, and he is part of the RG set group 03, and membership type is dynamic. Okay guys, that is it for this. So in this video we've created two security groups, one being a dynamic security group, the other one being assigned. We've created users and we've put those users into those groups through dynamic means or assigning them. We've also applied that group to a resource group, so anyone within that group now has reader access to the resource group that we put in. So I think that's fairly comprehensive and should hopefully give you a steer on what they're expecting you to be able to do in the exam. So with that, I shall say goodbye and I shall speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.